Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SUAS NFL Week 13. Coming off a great week. Week 12 was excellent. Didn't really go our way Thursday night, but I didn't like that game from the start. I think I even put a disclaimer like, guys, bet this one light, that Cowboys-Seahawks game. We got 11 lined up for this Sunday. Let's do it.
Welcome to the SUAS. The SUAS. Hey, get the SUAS.
First up, Chargers are on the road in Foxborough to play New England. Patriots are catching 5.5 points at home. This total is sitting at an even 40. No doubt, public's definitely leaning towards the Chargers here, as you would expect. I mean, New England's they've looked pretty awful. 60% of the tickets, 60% of the handle, but the line got bet off a key number. Was sitting at 6 for most of this week, got bet down to 5.5. So even though most of the action's coming in on the Chargers, definitely some pros out there that went heavy on New England at that +6. Let's talk injuries. Chargers offense dealing with serious issues here. Now the two offensive tackles, they're both listed as questionable, but they've both been practicing, so I'm assuming they're both going to play. That's the good news. Obviously, Corey Linsley's still out at center. He's been out pretty much this whole season. He's got a heart issue. I don't think there's even a timetable for his return. And when we look at this receiving core, Mike Williams still out. Joshua Palmer still out. Now Keenan Allen is questionable, and he hasn't practiced all week. So there's a good chance Keenan Allen doesn't play in this game, which would make Quentin Johnston the #1 wide receiver option for Justin Herbert in this game. Chargers are somewhat healthy on the defensive side, but obviously missing one of their main pieces, Joey Bosa. They just put him on the IR last week, so he's going to be out for at least a few more weeks. They also have some injuries to the depth of the secondary, but all the main pieces are good to go. Now on the New England side, this is actually interesting because the Patriots offensive line has been crushed with injuries all year, but a lot of these guys are back now. Trent Brown is back. Sidney So is back. Riley Reef might be back. He hasn't played since week 5. He's only played in one game this whole season. So New England's offensive line may be at full strength for the first time all year. At wide receiver, Kendrick Bourne still on the IR. Demario Douglas is listed as questionable. He would be one of the guys seeing a lot of snaps in Kendrick Bourne's absence. He's got a concussion. He hasn't practiced all week, so I think there's a good chance he misses this one. Update. So right after I recorded this, Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte ruled out. So the Patriots are now missing 3 wide receivers, Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, and Kayshon Boutte. So New England has a bunch of guys back on that offensive line. Unfortunately, not the case with their major defensive pieces. Matthew Judon still out, Christian Gonzalez still out, Marcus Jones still out. The other 2 questionables, though, Bentley and Wise, both of those guys have been practicing all week, so I assume they'll both be out there. So right off the bat, before we even dig into this one, we need to take into consideration that it's supposed to be raining in Foxborough this Sunday. Cold December, rainy weather in New England, not exactly the type of spot I'd like backing this Chargers offense. And it's definitely not enticing that the Patriots have arguably the best run defense in the NFL this year. They're allowing just 3.4 yards per carry on the season. That's first in the NFL. That's the best. 5th in rushing DVOA, 5th in PFF run defense grade. This New England run defense just held the Colts to 70 yards rushing on just 2.7 yards per carry. Colts have been running the ball well this season too. Even last week in the loss, Giants had just 58 yards rushing on 3.1 yards per carry. Saquon Barkley did nothing on the ground. Doesn't give me a ton of confidence in this Chargers run game here, which, as we know, has been pretty awful this season. They're 19th in yards per carry, 23rd in DVOA, 30th in PFF rushing grade. And then you add in the fact that Justin Herbert really hasn't been producing on the road. In his last 3 road games, he's completing just 56% of his passes, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, just 218 yards per game through the air, a 77.8 passer rating. I mean, these are bad numbers. Now, to be fair, 2 of those 3 road games were against the Jets and Chiefs, 2 tough defenses to throw the ball on this year. But he really wasn't amazing in the Green Bay game either, a defense that's really struggled against the pass. And on the road in Foxborough in the cold rain, I mean, I know the Patriots' pass defense has been suspect all season with the injuries. They've really struggled against the pass. But the way Herbert's played on the road, missing possibly his top 3 wide receivers in this weather, I just don't think we can count on Justin Herbert to have a big game here. Now, on the other side of the ball, I thought this Chargers run defense was turning a corner a few weeks back. Looks like I was off with that take. On the season, they're 15th in yards per carry allowed, which isn't bad. But the deeper metrics indicate that this is a bad run defense. 26th in DVOA, 26th in adjusted line yards. And I know on the season, the Patriots rushing numbers are pretty terrible, but look at Ramondre Stevenson over the last 3 games, averaging 5.46 yards per carry, 91 rushing yards per game, 2 touchdowns, which doubled his total from the year. He had just 2 touchdowns in the first 8 games, got 2 in the last 3. Stevenson finally starting to get himself going. I think New England's going to be able to run the ball in this game. As far as the Patriots passing attack, though, I mean, it's obviously terrible. You don't need to be a real in-depth analyst to figure that one out. Looks like Bailey Zappi is going to get the start for New England. There's really nothing positive to say about him or the Patriots passing attack. Mac Jones has been terrible. Bailey Zappi's been terrible in his brief appearances. We can pull up the Chargers' defensive numbers against the pass, and they're terrible, but I'm not sure how much I could even count on the Patriots to exploit that. That passing attack is just so bad. Maybe getting some pieces on the offensive line back, Stevenson getting going, maybe that opens up some things out of the play action, but I don't count on the Patriots. I can't count on the Patriots to throw the ball. As far as how I'm betting this one, I'm seeing a low-scoring, ugly Chargers win. So give me the under at 40.5. Give me Patriots plus 5.5. Let's say final score 17-13 Chargers next game. Next up, we got Lions on the road in New Orleans to play the Saints. Saints are catching 4.5 points at home, or 4 depending on your sports book. Total sitting at an even 47. So this line's been bouncing back between 4 and 4.5. You could still get both. There's 4s available, there's 4.5s available. Public is still heavy on Detroit. As I'm recording this, Lions are by far the most public bet of the week right now. Let's talk injuries. Lions offensively completely good to go. Jonah Jackson is listed as questionable, but he participated in a full practice 2 days in a row. So safe to assume he'll be on the field for this one. Lions defense still missing the same 3 pieces they've been missing for a couple months now. CJ Gardner-Johnson, Mosley, James Houston, all still on the IR. And now they add Alex Anzalone to the list. He's listed as doubtful, so Detroit also missing a linebacker in this one. Now we get to the Saints, who have just had a ton of bad luck with injuries recently. Offensively, Michael Thomas is out. Rashid Shaheed is out. Chris Olave is questionable. All 3 of the receivers. Now it looks like Chris Olave is probably going to play. He's participating in practice, but still, Saints missing 2 of their starting wide receivers in this one. And the Saints defense is missing pieces all over the place. Marshawn Lattimore is out. Marcus May is out. Linebacker Pete Werner is out. Cam Jordan hasn't practiced all week, looking like he might be out. New Orleans, just got crushed with injuries in the last couple weeks. So let's match these 2 teams up on the field. As we know, when it comes to the Lions offense, turnovers have been an issue the last couple weeks. 3 fumbles last week, 3 interceptions the week before that, just killing the momentum for this offense. And they were able to overcome it in the Bears game. They came back and got the win, weren't able to pull it off against the Packers. What really stood out to me in the Thanksgiving game was the Packers pass rush against the Lions offensive line. Green Bay was dominating. According to Pro Football Focus, Jared Goff was pressured on 52% of his dropbacks. 52, which is crazy because the Lions pass protection has actually been great this year. They're 12th in pressure rate allowed, 6th in QB hurry rate allowed, and 5th in adjusted sack rate. So now the Lions go on the road to New Orleans with Jared Goff struggling. Now, as we know about Goff, the home away splits, so this might be a spot to fade, right? Well, hold on, because those home away splits I was just talking about, not nearly as significant this year. In fact, they're pretty close. On the road, 6 touchdowns, 2 picks, a 94 passer rating. At home, 12 touchdowns, 6 picks, a 99 passer rating. So not nearly as extreme as they were last year. And another thing about this matchup, the Saints create 0 pressure. They're 28th in pressure rate. They do not have a pass rush at all. As we know, Jared Goff, extreme splits when it comes to pressure. When pressured, Jared Goff's 25th in passer rating, 30th in turnover-worthy play rate, 31st in big-time throw percentage, 34th in interceptions. When he's given a clean pocket, 3rd, 1st, 15th, and 4th. And one more positive angle for Jared Goff here, Saints run a ton of man coverage. Saints run man coverage at the 2nd highest rate in the NFL. Jared Goff against man coverage, 7th in passer rating, 7th in completion percentage. Against zone, 15th and 18th. So I know Goff has struggled recently, and it's tough to trust him right now, but on paper, this is a great matchup for him. But there is one thing that scares me here when it comes to the Saints defense, and it's the turnovers. Saints on the season are averaging 1.8 takeaways per game. That's 3rd most in the NFL. And at home, They're averaging 2.8 takeaways per game. That's most in the NFL by far. 0.5 more takeaways per game to the next closest defense. Saints pass defense on the season, 11th in DVOA, 3rd in passer rating allowed, 7th in yards per attempt. Now, Marshawn Lattimore is not on the field. They might be missing a safety. They might be missing Cam Jordan. There's all kinds of injuries, but still, this is not an easy defense to throw the ball on. But here's the thing. Even if you don't trust Jared Goff, even if you think Dennis Allen and the Saints defense is going to get the best of Goff throwing the ball, are the Saints going to be able to make stops on the ground here? Because since Jahmyr Gibbs returned from injury against Baltimore, over the last 5 weeks, the Lions are averaging 152 rushing yards per game, 5.4 yards per carry. On the season, the Lions are now 4th in rushing DVOA, 4th in yards per carry, and 1st in adjusted line yards. And the Saints' run defense is just trending in the wrong direction here. Over the last 4 weeks, they're allowing 168 rush yards per game, 5.18 yards per carry. On the season, they've played 4 teams that rank in the top half of the league in rushing DVOA. So they've played 4 strong rushing teams this year: Atlanta, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Tennessee. In those 4 games, they're allowing 163 yards per game on 5.47 yards per carry. So the Saints' run defense struggles against strong rushing attacks, and they've been struggling the last 4 weeks. I just don't see how they stop this Lions rushing attack. On the year now, the Saints' run defense has dropped to 22nd in DVOA, 27th in yards per carry allowed, and 21st in adjusted line yards. Situational stats on this side of the ball, really no edge here. Lions 11th on 3rd down, 14th in the red zone. Saints defense 7th on 3rd down, 19th in the red zone. So kind of a wash there. But now we flip it over to the other side of the ball, and the Lions have just been getting torched through the air recently. Over the last 5 weeks, they have an average opponent passer rating of 109.2, 8.6 yards per pass attempt, over 66% completions. In the first 6 weeks of the season, they were allowing opponent pass rating of just 78.6 and a 6.26 yards per pass attempt. So Lions pass defense has just fallen off a cliff here. One thing we do have to say about the Lions pass defense, though, the pass rush has still been there. They're 3rd in pressure rate, 1st in QB hurry rate. So even though the secondary has been getting smoked, pass rush has still been there. And that's huge in this matchup because Derek Carr has not handled pressure well this year. When pressured on the season, he's 24th in passer rating, 24th in PFF passer grade, 27th in passing touchdowns. So Derek Carr has not been good under pressure. That's a positive for the Lions defense. And then you add on the fact that he's missing 2 receivers, possibly a 3rd if Olave is also out. A positive angle for Derek Carr in the Saints passing offense would be Detroit runs a lot of zone coverage. Derek Carr against man, 16th in passer rating, 18th in completion percentage. Against zone, 8th and 11th. So not really a huge angle there, but there's a slight positive for the Saints. What about the Saints run game here? Well, it's not really just the Lions pass defense that's fallen off here. On the season, the Lions are still 7th in rushing DVOA, 7th in yards per carry allowed, and 10th in adjusted line yards. But in the last 5 weeks, Lions are allowing 123 rush yards per game on 4.4 yards per carry, compared to the first 6 weeks, just 64.7 rushing yards per game on 2.79 yards per carry. And New Orleans rushing attack, it may not be great, but it has been better. Through the first 7 weeks of the season, they were averaging just 98 rushing yards per game, 3.4 yards per carry. Over the last 4 weeks, 115 yards per game on 4.4 yards per carry. Not exactly electric, but an improvement. Situational stats on this side of the ball. Lions defense definitely has the edge on 3rd downs. They're 10th. Saints offense is 21st. Both are pretty terrible in the red zone, so no edge there. And Derek Carr, as we know, is one of the worst quarterbacks in the red zone in NFL history, something that he reminds us of on a weekly basis. As far as betting this one, the sharp move is to take New Orleans at +4.5. Obviously, Detroit's super public side. I can't personally get there. I think the move here is definitely take the over at 47. I'll be playing the over. I expect both teams to move the ball. But with all the Saints injuries, Lions coming off back-to-back shaky performances, I think they might blow them out. I think they put up a big number here, so I'm leaning Lions -4.5, but that's not definitive yet. I'm definitely on the over. I'll let you know the final decision on the live show Sunday morning, 11 a.m. next game. Cardinals are on the road in Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. Pittsburgh laying 5.5. It's actually up to 6.5 now. This graphic says 5.5. It's 6.5 now. Total sitting at 41. Public's pretty split even on this one. Actually slightly leaning towards Arizona. Sharp action definitely on Arizona according to this data. But the line's been on the move, like I said. It went from 5.5 to 6. Now it's at 6.5 on most sports books. So there are pros out there definitely betting Pittsburgh heavy. Cardinals definitely dealing with some injuries here. Wilkinson's still out at guard. Wide receiver Michael Wilson has been ruled out. Hollywood Brown hasn't practiced all week, so it looks like he might not play. Trey McBride is questionable, but he practiced on Thursday and Friday, so I think McBride's going to play. On the defensive side of the ball, it gets even worse for Arizona. Their front seven is just rocked. Carlos Watkins still out. Fotu still out. Collier still out. Kaiser White's going to miss another game. That's the second in a row he's missed. They're also missing a corner. They've got a safety questionable. It's just looking rough for the Arizona Cardinals here. On the Pittsburgh side of things, offensively, they're completely healthy and ready to roll. Deontay Johnson was on the injury report with an illness, but it looks like they took him off. He practiced on Friday, so I think he's ready to go. Now we get to the Steelers defense, and we'll start with the bad news. Keanu Neal, Cole Holcomb, Quan Alexander, all still out. They've been out for multiple weeks now. The good news, Minkah Fitzpatrick finally back at safety for the Steelers, and Adams, that nose tackle, he's most likely back as well. So Steelers actually getting some good news on the injury front defensively. So let's match these two teams up on the field, and we'll start with the Cardinals passing offense. How have they looked since Kyler Murray's return? Okay, I guess. Through 3 starts, he's completing just 61.7% of his passes. 6.7 yards per attempt isn't great. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a 79.9 passer rating. If you put the Cardinals passing numbers in weeks 10 through 12 with Kyler Murray next to weeks 1 through 7 with Joshua Dobbs, it's basically identical. I mean, 23rd, 24th, 28th, 26th, 23rd, 27th. So, I mean, obviously, getting Kyler Murray back in the lineup, definitely a huge plus for the Cardinals offense, but analytically, we haven't seen much of a difference yet. And now they got to go on the road and try to throw the ball against the Steelers' pass defense that just got Minkah Fitzpatrick back. On the season, Pittsburgh 7th in pass defense DVOA, 7th in passer rating, and 3rd in opponent completion percentage. Pittsburgh's defense is at their best when they're creating turnovers. They do so at the 3rd highest rate in the NFL, averaging 1.8 takeaways per game, and that number jumps to 2.3 per game at home. Now, if you look at Kyler Murray's 2 interceptions through 3 starts, you might think that's going to be an issue here, but actually, Kyler Murray only has 2 turnover-worthy plays on the season, so he's got a bit unlucky in that department. I think the game plan for Arizona offensively is pretty obvious here. Run the football. It's been the constant of Arizona's offense all year. They're 15th in rushing DVOA. They're 3rd in yards per carry and 10th in rushing yards per game. But I do have some concerns for the Arizona run game in this particular spot. Number one, their offensive line has not been creating much push up front. 24th in adjusted line yards, which doesn't usually translate into consistent production in the run game long term. They also average 1.3 less yards per carry on the road. At home, they're averaging 5.4 yards per carry. On the road, just 4.1. And the Steelers defense may have some ugly looking numbers against the run on this season. Just 22nd in yards per carry allowed and 23rd in... But they looked excellent the last 2 weeks against Cincinnati and Cleveland. They held those two teams to just 60.5 rushing yards per game, 3.02 yards per carry. So the Steelers' run defense has really stepped up. Now, you might be thinking, well, Kyle, the only reason the Steelers' run defense stepped up in the last 2 games is they didn't have to worry about any quarterback play. They played DTR and Browning. Well, the way Kyler Murray's been throwing the ball, like, how much of a step up really is that? Look, Kyler Murray can scramble, but so can DTR. Cardinals may be able to get a little bit going in the run game, but as a whole, on the road in Pittsburgh's a tough ask for them. Situational stats, we're looking at a slight edge to the Steelers defense on 3rd downs. They're 14th. Cardinals offense is 24th. Cardinals offense surprisingly good in the red zone with Kyler Murray. 4th in red zone percentage in the last 3 weeks, but the Steelers defense excellent in the red zone. They're 5th on the season. Now, on the other side of the ball, looks like the Cardinals pass defense has been improving a bit. Through the first 7 weeks, they were just getting smoked week in and week out, allowing a 105.9 passer rating, 8.2 yards per attempt, over 259 yards per game. But in weeks 8 through 11, we saw some signs of hope from the Cardinals pass defense, 92.8, 6.9 yards per attempt, 202 yards per game. But then last week, we just saw an ice cold Matthew Stafford come into Arizona and put up his best game of the season. 25 of 33, 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a 121.9 passer rating. The only other time Matt Stafford has had a passer rating above 100 this whole season, the other game against Arizona. Just 4 games before that, Stafford has managed 2+ passing touchdowns in only 1 of his previous 9 starts. And this is an intriguing matchup because Kenny Pickett, looking like a brand new quarterback in his first game without Matt Canada calling the plays, against Cincinnati, 72.7% completions, 8.4 yards per attempt, 278 yards, 97.8 passer rating. Who is this guy? Is this the same Kenny Pickett? And to me, the most noticeable difference was he was getting the ball downfield. In weeks 1 through 11, just 6.1 yards per attempt, 8 big-time throws. Against Cincinnati, 8.4 yards per attempt, 4 big time throws. So through 11 games, or 10 games, I'm sorry, he had just 8 big time throws, and then he had 4 in his first game without Canada. The reason I included those numbers, the reason I think they're so significant in this matchup, the Cardinals have been the worst team analytically in the NFL against the deep pass. They're 17th in short pass DVOA defensively, but 32nd in deep pass DVOA. But now we get to the icing on the cake, the Arizona Cardinals run defense. Perhaps the worst run defense in the NFL. Certainly, the injuries to the front seven didn't help. I mean, they've been awful. 30th in DVOA, 26th in yards per carry allowed, 31st in adjusted line yards. But the last 3 weeks in particular have been especially awful. On the last 3 games, 174 rushing yards per game, 5.3 yards per carry. Cardinals are getting cooked on the ground. And now they play a Pittsburgh Steelers rushing attack that all of a sudden looks awesome. In weeks 1 through 8, they're averaging just 79.7 rushing yards per game, 3.41 yards per carry. In weeks 9 through 12, 174 yards per game on 5.56 yards per carry. The past 4 weeks have bumped the Pittsburgh rushing ranks all the way up to 11th in adjusted line yards, 8th in rushing DVOA, and 3rd in yards per carry by running backs. This is a good rushing offense, the Steelers. Situational stats on this side of the ball, no edge here. I mean, they're all terrible. Cardinals dead last, worst defense on third downs, but the Steelers offense isn't particularly good on third downs. Just a wash across the board here. As far as when I'm betting in this one, I took a shot on Arizona +3 last week, and I was pretty confident with it. I liked the play, wasn't even close. Stafford cooked them. I won't do it again. I'm not taking the Cards here. I can see why the Sharps are hammering Pittsburgh. Now that it's at 6.5, I feel like there's not much value. I would love to be holding like a Pittsburgh -4 ticket. So I'm leaning Steelers. That's the way I'd go. But as of right now, I haven't bet this one, and this might end up being a pass for me. I'll let you know on the live show what the final decision is. But as of right now, I'll say Steelers or pass. Next game. Atlanta Falcons on the road in MetLife to play the Jets. Jets are catching 2 points at home, which is down from 3. This number was 3 earlier in the week. Total sitting all the way down at 34 in true New York Jets fashion. Public is looking pretty split on this one. Jets +3 was available earlier in the week, but it looks like all those got bought up. Then I saw it at 2.5. Looks like all those got bought up as well. Now we're looking at even 2s across the board. I see FanDuel's got it down to 1.5 now. There's a 1.5 open. So line movement indicates that the pros are taking the Jets here. I didn't make any graphics for this one, but I can tell you I'm most likely on the Jets here. We know Ritter can't be trusted on the road, especially against a Jets pass defense that at home in MetLife is as good as it gets in the NFL. You got the Jets coming off back-to-back embarrassing losses. Falcons coming off a huge division win that put them in first place. It's a perfect buy low, sell high spot. I'm on the Jets. Give me Jets +2 next game. AFC South division battle here. Colts on the road in Tennessee. Titans now catching 1 point at home, which is down from 2. Total sitting at 42.5. So action's starting to come in pretty heavy on Tennessee according to the data. Like I said, this number was at 2 early in the week. It's been bet down to 1. I actually grabbed Tennessee at 1.5 myself, so if you're in the Discord, you probably already saw that. Titans shaping up to be a pretty heavy public dog here. So let's talk injuries. Titans offensively are in pretty great shape here. Looks like Treylon Burks is back at wide receiver. He's been out for about a month now. Right tackle Hubbard, he was just placed on the IR. This will be the second straight game he's missed. Tennessee defensively is completely good to go. No injury designations on the starting defense for the Titans. So Titans injury-wise are in really good shape. Colts offensively are completely healthy with the exception of Anthony Richardson. Obviously, he's out for the year. And Jonathan Taylor is out as well with a thumb injury. So Zach Moss is going to be getting a bulk of the carries at running back for the Colts. On the defensive side, Colts are really banged up at corner. Both Juju Brents and Dallas Flowers are out. That's both of their corners on the edge. Grover Stewart still suspended on the defensive line. I think he's going to miss 2 more games. And now DeForest Buckner is questionable. Not sure what's going on with him. It says shoulder / not injury related. I'm not sure what that means. He did not practice on Friday. As far as what I'm betting in this one, it's pretty simple here. It's a home game for the Titans. I've bet the Titans at home all 4 times this year, and I see no reason to stop. They are 0-6 on the road, but a perfect 4-0 at home. Points per game on the road, just 11.7. At home, 24.8. Points allowed per game on the road, 23.3. At home, just 15. They average 100 more yards per game offensively at home, and they allow 74 less yards per game defensively at home. This Titans team is just a different animal at home. 4-0 betting on them at home, and I'm not stopping now. Give me Tennessee. I already got in at +1.5. I'd still take them at 1 next game. Dolphins are on the road to play the Commanders here. Washington catching 9.5 points at home. Total sitting all the way up at 49.5. Public's actually looking kind of split in this one. Maybe slightly leaning towards Miami. Handle looks like it might be on Washington, depending on what site you're looking at. Line hasn't moved at all, though. So kind of tough to get a read on what the Sharps are doing in this one. I'm skipping this one for now. I'll save it for the live show Sunday morning. I'm hearing there might be bad weather at FedEx Field, so don't really have a feel for this one right now. Next game. Denver on the road in Houston to play the Texans. Texans laying 3 points at home. That number's down from 3.5. Total sitting at 47.5. Action looks like it's leaning towards Houston here. Ticket slightly leaning towards Houston. Sharp action definitely leaning towards Houston according to the data. But the consensus line dropped from 3.5 to 3 late Thursday night. So it looks like Sharps bought those Denver plus 3.5s up. Let's talk injuries. Houston offensively has some issues here. That offensive line, it was very hurt in the beginning of the year. Then they finally got healthy, and now they're missing pieces again. Titus Howard is out. Jared Patterson is out. Both missing for the middle of that offensive line. Dalton Schultz also ruled out at tight end. Wide receivers Noah Brown and Tank Dell are both questionable. Looks like Tank Dell is probably going to play, and Noah Brown is probably not going to play based on the practice reports. Houston defensively is good to go with the exception of Sheldon Rankins at defensive tackle. He didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, but he did participate in a light practice on Friday, so he'll probably be a game time decision. Denver offensively is completely healthy with the exception of Dulcich, the tight end. He's pretty much missed this entire season, though. On the defensive side of the ball, Broncos are still missing Kareem Jackson. He's currently suspended. Corner Damari Mathis is also questionable, and he missed Friday's practice, so it looks like he may be out. So let's match these two teams up on the field. Obviously, as we know, Russell Wilson having a great season, having a little bit of a career resurgence in his second year as a Denver Bronco. On the season, he's 5th in passer rating, 1st in adjusted completion percentage, 5th in touchdowns, 5th in interceptions. Last year in those same categories, 29th, 26th, 19th, and 29th. And I think a major reason for the difference is Denver's running a far more conservative offense under Sean Payton. Last year, he had a 9.5 average depth of target, which is 7th highest in the league. This year, just 7.2, 33rd. So the Broncos not throwing the ball downfield as much as they did last year. And now Russell Wilson gets to see a very bad Houston Texan pass defense. On the season, the Texans are 24th in opponent passer rating, 28th in yards per pass attempt allowed, and 26th in DVOA. And something that really stands out here, the Houston Texans defense does not blitz much at all. Just a 22.2% blitz rate on the season. That's 27th in the NFL. The reason that's significant, Russell Wilson is excellent when you don't blitz him. When he's blitzed, he's 17th, 19th, and 19th in passer rating, passing touchdowns, and interceptions. When he's not blitzed, 3rd, 1st, and 1st. So a lot of numbers pointing to this being a very favorable matchup for Russell Wilson and the Broncos passing offense. When it comes to running the ball, though, Denver might be in a bit of a situation here. First off, the efficiency of the Broncos run game has really fallen off. Through the first 7 weeks of the season, Denver was averaging 5.07 yards per carry, 22 rushing attempts per game. In the last 4 weeks, the rushing attempts have gone way up. They're now averaging 33 rushing attempts per game, but they're averaging just 3.71 yards per carry. The Broncos went from running the ball on 41.1% of their offensive snaps through the first 6 games to running the ball on 53.9% of their snaps in the last 5 games. So Sean Payton leaning a lot more on the run game during this hot streak, and obviously it's working. They're winning games, but the yards per carry is way down. And that could be a concern heading into Houston. The Texans defense may be terrible against the pass, but it's been great against the run. On the season, they're 10th in DVOA, 3rd in adjusted line yards, and 3rd in yards per carry allowed. If Denver wants to go on the road and win this game, Russell Wilson needs to be good because they are not going to be able to go on and just run their way to a win here. Situational stats, kind of a wash here on this side of the ball. Broncos 17th on 3rd downs, 21st in the red zone offensively. Texans defense 24th and 16th. Now on the other side of the ball, Broncos pass defense, what a turnaround, man. In their last 5 weeks, they are 7th in EPA per play, 8th in EPA per dropback, 9th in success rate per dropback. Through the first 6 weeks, dead last in all 3, 32nd, 32nd, 32nd. These numbers tell the whole story, man. I mean, check this out. Through the first 6 weeks of the season, they're allowing a 119 passer rating, 2.33 passing touchdowns per game, 8.79 yards per attempt, In the last 5 weeks, a 71.9 passer rating, 1 touchdown per game, 1.2 interceptions per game, 6.01 yards per attempt. The Broncos pass defense has done a complete 180. And a big reason for that is the pass rush. The Broncos pass rush was non-existent through the first 6 games, just an 18.6 average pressure rate. Through the last 5 games, 35.2, nearly double the pressure rate. And the rise in pressure rate is huge in this matchup because CJ Stroud has shown us you can rattle this guy. Get the pass rush going, you can rattle this guy. CJ Stroud, when given a clean pocket, 2nd in yards per pass attempt, 4th in passing touchdowns, 3rd in PFF passer grade. When pressured, 22nd, and 19th. Another change we've seen in the Denver pass defense, they're running a lot of man coverage now, which was not the case early in the season. They started the season with a very zone-heavy approach. They're now in the top 12 of man coverage frequency, and that's notable because CJ Stroud has been significantly less efficient against man coverage. CJ Stroud against zone coverage on the season, 12th in completion percentage, 1st in passer rating, 1st in touchdown rate. Against man, 24th, 16th, 19th. I think the Broncos pass defense is a tough matchup for CJ Stroud. I think they're going to give him problems. But what about the run game? Because one thing that hasn't changed for Denver's defense, sure, the pass defense looks great, did a complete 180. This run defense is still terrible. On the season, they're 31st in DVOA, dead last in adjusted line yards, dead last in yards per carry allowed at 5.4. And that's a problem for Denver because Houston, they started off the season with no run game at all. Through the first 8 games, they were averaging just 3.24 yards per carry. They didn't reach 4 yards per carry as a team once. In the last 3 games, they're averaging 130 rushing yards per game, over 5 yards per carry, and they reach 4.4 yards per carry or more in all 3 games. So it's looking like the Texans should be able to run the ball at home here on a bad Broncos run defense. Situational stats on this side of the ball, I guess a slight edge to Denver. I mean, you got an edge for Denver's defense in the red zone. They're 11th, Houston offensively 20th. But on third downs, the slight edge would go to Houston 6th to 11th. As far as what I'm betting in this game, as long as I'm getting 3 or more, I'm on Denver. I do trust CJ Stroud. I think he's great. But I like Denver's pass defense. They've truly been excellent. And I don't trust the Houston rushing attack. I know it's starting to show up recently, but with those 2 offensive linemen out, I don't trust it. So getting a full 3, I'm on the Broncos. They look great. I'm rolling with them. Give me Denver +3 next game. NFC South division battle here. Carolina's on the road at Tampa. Bucks are laying 5.5 points at home here. Total sitting all the way down at 37. Public looks to be coming in on Carolina on this one, depending on what site you're looking at. Money's also slightly leaning towards Carolina. Line hasn't moved a muscle. So as of right now, doesn't seem like the books are too worried about playing against a heavy public Carolina +5.5 side. But we'll see how that pans out. We'll start with injuries, and there's a ton in this game. Bucks offensively still without Ryan Jensen at center. Pretty sure he's been out all season. They also may have to play this game without Chris Godwin at wide receiver. He's listed as questionable, and he missed Friday's practice, so I'd say there's a good chance he doesn't play. Tampa's defense has 3 major missing pieces. Dean is out, who's arguably their best corner. 2 star inside linebackers, Levante David and Devin White, both out. And their 3rd inside linebacker on the depth chart, Servassier Dennis, he's a rookie out of Pittsburgh, he's listed as doubtful. So the Bucks most likely missing their top 3 inside linebackers in this game. Now Carolina's offense, check this out, this just gets crazy. So they're missing both starting guards and the tight end Hayden Hurst, right? Both starting guards and Hayden Hurst are out. But the backups who would be starting in place of those injured pieces, they're all hurt as well. Their 3rd guard, Zavala, he's on the IR. Their 4th guard, Jensen, he might not even play. He's questionable. And their backup tight end, Tommy Tremble, he's doubtful. So the Panthers may have their 5th and 6th guards and their 3rd and 4th tight ends going in this game. On the defensive side of the ball, though, Carolina's getting some good news. First, some bad news. Von Bell is out again. He was hurt, then came back, then he was hurt again. I think he's gotten hurt and come back 2 or 3 times now. He's out in this game. Justin Houston and Shaq Thompson both still on the IR. But Jeremy Chin and JC Horn both could be returning to the Panthers secondary here. Jeremy Chin hasn't played in 2 months. JC Horn hasn't played since week 1. So the Panthers might be getting 2 huge pieces back to that secondary. So let's match these 2 teams up on the field. And I mean, it's truly been a brutal start to Bryce Young's NFL career. Amongst 40 quarterbacks on the season, he's 38th in passer grade, 39th in yards per attempt, 33rd in completion percentage, 34th in big time throw percentage, 34th in passer rating. I was trying to find some positive angles for Bryce Young. I couldn't even find splits where he's a top 20 quarterback. pressured versus a clean pocket, blitz, not blitz versus man versus zone. I couldn't find anything. I mean, I guess we could point to his numbers against zone coverage. The Bucs do run a lot of zone, the 5th most zone coverage in the NFL, Tampa. Bryce Young versus man, 29th in completion percentage, 29th in passer rating, versus zone, 17th and 24th. I mean, that's thin. That's a thin angle, but it's something. I really couldn't find anything. Now, the Bucs defense has been bad against the pass. I mean, that could be some good news for Bryce Young. On the season, they're 20th in DVOA, 26th in opponent passer rating, 29th in yards per pass attempt allowed. Their main issue is inconsistency. But one thing I did find when I was looking at the numbers for the Bucs defense, they seem to do a good job against bad quarterbacks. I mean, if you look at the last 3, Brock Purdy lit them up. 167 passer rating, 13.3 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no picks. But Gardner Minshew and Will Levis, the other 2 they shut down both of them. So if you use that logic, they should, in turn, shut down Bryce Young as well. And even better news for Tampa's pass defense, they've been significantly better at home. On the road, they're 30th in opponent passer rating, 24th in completion percentage, 29th in passing touchdowns allowed. At home, 12th, 9th, and 5th. So at home against a bad quarterback, as much as I'd love to have some faith in Bryce Young against an injured Bucs defense, I just don't think there's enough evidence here to trust him. Now, when it comes to the run game for the Panthers, they don't really give us much here either. 26 in yards per carry, 28th in DVOA, 29th in adjusted line yards. And they got a tough matchup here trying to run the ball on the road against Tampa, who's 8th in yards per carry allowed, 13th in DVOA. Now, keep in mind, the Bucs are missing 3 inside linebackers here, including the 2 stars of their defense. Should affect their run defense, but again, Panthers are missing 4 guards and 2 tight ends, so honestly, who knows? Something that stands out here is if you weigh the level of production against the level of their opponent. For example, Carolina has seen 6 top 15 run defenses this year. In those games, they're averaging just 79 rushing yards per game and 3.19 yards per carry. The Bucs defensively on the entire season have only seen 3 teams outside the top 15 of rushing DVOA. So in the rare instances when the Bucs have seen a bad rushing attack, they've completely shut them down. 45 yards per game, just 2.71 yards per carry. So basically, the Bucs have shut down bad rushing offenses, and the Panthers have struggled to run the ball against good run defenses. Again, just not enough evidence to trust the Panthers offense here. Situational stats on this side of the ball, I mean, nothing really on third downs. Both of these units are kind of bad. Bucs defense, as we know, is excellent in the red zone. Panthers offense just 19th. So in the red zone, there's an edge to the Bucs defense. On the other side of the ball, we have to give some credit to the Panthers pass defense, though. They've really turned things around. On their last 5 games, just an 84.4 opponent passer rating, just 3 total passing touchdowns, 163.6 yards per game allowed, 5.38 yards per attempt. So the Panthers have been great against the pass recently compared to the first 6 games where they were just getting lit up through the air. And it's crazy that they're accomplishing this without any sort of pass rush. On the season, Carolina's 29th in pressure rate, 27th in adjusted sack rate. Unfortunately for the Bucs, I don't know how much the lack of Panthers pass rush even helps them, because Baker Mayfield has not been able to take advantage of a clean pocket. When given a clean pocket, Baker Mayfield's 25th in passer rating, 31st in adjusted completion percentage, 27th in yards per attempt. When pressured, he's 5th, 16th, 4th, and 12th. The good news for Baker Mayfield would be that Carolina blitzes a lot. They have the 6th highest blitz rate in the NFL. When he's blitzed, Baker Mayfield's 6th in passer rating, 2nd in pressure to sack rate, 1st in turnover-worthy play rate with 0% turnover-worthy play rate, 4th in PFF passer grade. When he's given a clean pocket, 21st, 29th, 25th, 23rd. I mean, he's better under pressure. It's crazy. When it comes to the ground game, if you look at Carolina's numbers on the season, you would think that this is a great spot for the Bucs to get the run game going, but the Panthers' run defense has also made a major turnaround. In weeks 1 through 6, they're allowing 144 rushing yards per game, 4.9 yards per carry. In weeks 7 through 12, 101.6 rushing yards per game on 3.43 yards per carry. Tampa is coming off their best rushing performance of the season against the Colts, 125 yards on the ground, 6.6 yards per carry, but it looks like that might be an outlier because on the season, they're one of the worst rushing attacks in the NFL. 26 in rushing DVOA, 32nd in yards per carry, 31st in adjusted line yards. As far as what I'm betting in this one, the injuries make it really tough to make a final decision right now. I haven't bet this one yet, and I won't until I see at least some more confirmed injury reports for this game, but I think I'm leaning Panthers plus 5.5, maybe Bucks team total under. I'll say Panthers are pass for now. This one might end up being a straight pass. Next game. Got probably the game of the week here. 49ers on the road in Philly. Eagles catching a full 3 points at home, which is up from 1. So people really hammering 49ers here. Total sitting at 47.5. Action's definitely coming in on San Francisco. This line was at 1. I got it at 1, actually. I got San Francisco -1. If you're in the Discord, you already saw that. Got bet up to 2.5. It's now at 3. Public's definitely on San Francisco. Data showing a little bit of sharp action on Philly, but not much. 49ers offensively are completely good to go. Not a single injury designation on the entire unit. On the defensive side, Hufanga is on the IR, so he's going to miss some time. Eric Armstead is listed as questionable. He missed Wednesday and Thursday's practice, but he was out there on Friday, so I would imagine he's going to be a game-time decision. Philly offensively is completely healthy with the exception of Dallas Goedert. He's listed as doubtful. He's been out for about a month now. Eagles defense missing 2 linebackers. Nakobe Dean's been out for a while now. Zach Cunningham's a new injury, though. He just got injured in the Buffalo game last week. Speaking of injuries in the Buffalo game last week, Fletcher Cox also got hurt in that game, and he hasn't practiced all week, so it looks like he may sit this one out. So we'll start with the 49ers passing offense. Brock Purdy, decent against the Seahawks on Thanksgiving night. Just 209 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 86.7 passer rating. Not great. Definitely a disappointment coming off a pure domination of the Bucs and the Jags in the 2 weeks before that. In those games, he combined for 629 yards, 12.3 yards per pass attempt, 6 touchdowns, a 153 passer rating. Good news for Brock Purdy, though. He gets matched up against the Eagles pass defense that's been really underwhelming. Just 21st in DVOA, 27th in opponent passer rating, and 20th in EPA per dropback. Eagles pass defense has been disappointing this year. And I think what's most notable is the drop in production from the pass rush. Last season, the Eagles had the best pass rush in the NFL, and I don't even know if it was close. They were first in pressure rate, second in QB hurry rate, first in adjusted sack rate. This year, 15th, 16th, and 12th. 49ers have done a great job in protecting Brock Purdy this season, and that's going to be huge in this matchup because Brock Purdy, when given a clean pocket, is unfair. His numbers from a clean pocket: he's first in passer rating, first in adjusted completion percentage, 6th in passer grade, 4th in interceptions. When pressured, 8th, 15th, 14th, 28th. And things only get better for Brock Purdy when you consider the Eagles run a lot of man coverage. 49ers against man coverage, 2nd in passer rating, 2nd in net yards per attempt, 2nd in touchdown rate. The 49ers dominate man coverage. As far as the run game goes, looks like San Francisco is back on track. They had a bit of a rough patch there from weeks 3 to 7. They're averaging just 3.85 yards per carry in that span. But in the 4 weeks since then, back up to averaging 4.67 yards per carry, 135 yards per game. On the season, they ranked 3rd in rushing DVOA, 4th in adjusted line yards, and 7th in yards per carry. But is the Eagles' run defense starting to come back down to earth? Through the first 7 weeks, they were allowing just 3.57 yards per carry, just 62.9 rushing yards per game. In the last 4, 124.5 rushing yards per game, 4.66 yards per carry. So teams have been able to run the ball on the Eagles recently. Situational stats on this side of the ball, huge edge to San Francisco here. 49ers 5th on 3rd down, 6th in the red zone offensively. Eagles defense 30th and 28th. So huge edge situationally for the 49ers offense. On the other side of the ball, we know the San Francisco pass defense is about as elite as it gets. They're 5th in DVOA, 4th in passer rating allowed, 4th in yards per attempt allowed. They had a bit of a rough patch there against the Bengals and the Vikings back in weeks 7 and 8. They actually got smoked in those games by Burrow and Cousins. Those games, 330.5 passing yards per game, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a 125 average passer rating. But in the 3 games since coming off the bye week, 49ers defense against the pass is all the way back. It's not like they've seen bad quarterbacks too. They saw Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith. In those 3 games, just 205 pass yards per game, 5.9 yards per attempt is terrible. 1 touchdown, 4 picks, and an average passer rating of 64.8. 5 sacks per game in those 3. Since Chase Young joined the 49ers 2 weeks ago, the pressure rate in those 2 games, 47.2% and 53.5%. That's absolutely nuts. And they're up against an Eagles offensive line that looked completely out of sync without Lane Johnson out there in the Bills game, allowing Hurts to get pressured on 50% of his snaps. Now, the good news for the Eagles is it looks like Lane Johnson is going to play. He's banged up, but I think he's going to play. I'm not 100% certain on that, but from what I'm reading, it looks like he is going to play. But I do have a very positive angle for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense here. This man has been excellent under pressure this season. When pressured, he's third in yards per attempt, fourth in touchdowns, third in passer grade, third in adjusted completion percentage, seventh in turnover worthy play rate, sixth in passer rating. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year when pressured. So if there's one quarterback that you can trust to make some plays against the 49ers defense, it might be Jalen Hurts. And we do have to take Jalen Hurts home away splits into consideration here. He's been excellent at Lincoln Financial Field. On the road, Jalen Hurts just 7 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks, just an 85 passer rating. At home, 8.3 yards per attempt, 10 touchdowns, 3 picks, and a 109 passer rating. Now, when it comes to the Eagles running the ball here, 49ers defense hasn't been nearly as potent against the run this year as they have been in years past. Last year, they were second in all major categories against the run. This year, 20th, 18th, and 10th. And the 49ers really haven't seen a ton of competition as far as elite rushing attacks. They've only seen 2 teams in the top 12 of rushing DVOA this year. They were actually good in those games. It's the Rams and the Steelers, just 4.1 yards per carry in those two. 49ers are yet to see a top 7 rushing attack, though, this year. And the Eagles are ranked number 5, so this will be their toughest test yet as far as the run defense goes. Now, the Eagles offense, what do we think about this rushing offense? Because they started off the season hot. DeAndre Swift was making plays. Looks like the Eagles offense is going to be unstoppable on the ground. Then weeks 4 through 10, just 3.45 yards per carry. They completely cooled off. Then in the last 2 games, back up over 5 yards per carry again. So a little bit of a roller coaster ride, this Eagles rushing attack. Obviously, we think it's going to be good. Tough to really gauge it, though. Situational stats on this side of the ball, I mean, kind of a wash. Slight edge to Philly's offense on third down. Slight edge to the 49ers defense in the red zone. As far as betting this game, like I said, I already bet the 49ers. I have San Francisco at -1. At 3, I'd probably still bet San Francisco. I wouldn't like it nearly as much, but I'm on the 49ers. I think they look like the overall more complete, better team right now. Also, there's a revenge factor with San Francisco that isn't there for Philly because Philly beat them in the NFC Championship game. The Philly revenge spot was on Monday Night Football against the Chiefs a few weeks back. So yeah, give me San Francisco. I have it at -1. I'll also bet it at -3. I'll go with the Niners. Cleveland Browns on the road in LA to play the Rams. Rams are now laying 4. This graphic says 3.5, but it's now at 4. Total sitting at 40.5. Public's definitely leaning towards LA here. At first, it looks like the Sharps are buying up all those Cleveland plus 4.5s, and they bet it down to 3.5. Now it seems like everyone's coming in on the Rams. Maybe it's because of the Joe Flacco news. Who knows? All right, Cleveland's offense. I mean, what do we even say? Joe Flacco is starting at quarterback, apparently. They're missing both offensive tackles. Amari Cooper is going to play, by the way. It says questionable in this graphic. He's going to play. I have no idea what to do with this one. I think I have to bet the Rams. I mean, Joe Flacco starting is just an insane angle. At first glance, I wanted to take Cleveland. Matt Stafford coming off a huge game, a nice sell high spot for him. I'm not the biggest supporter of this Rams team. We know Matt Stafford struggles with pressure. Cleveland's defense is a nightmare matchup for him. And the Rams defense struggles to stop the run. So I liked Cleveland when I first looked at this game. But can we really count on this Browns defense on the road here? Everyone talks about how good Cleveland's defense is. That really only applies to their home games. At home, they allow just 10.2 points per game and 175 yards per game. Both are first in the NFL. But on the road, Cleveland's allowing 29.6 points per game and 334 yards per game. 30th and 16th. Browns defense on the road is not the same as the Browns defense at home. So combine that with the fact that Joe Flacco's playing quarterback, I feel like my hands are tied. I feel like I have to bet the Rams, but I don't like it at all. It feels too easy. It feels too trappy. So I guess I'll say Rams or pass for now. I'll let you know the final decision on the live show Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Next game. Sunday Night Football. Chiefs are on the road in Lambeau. Green Bay catching a full 6 at home here. Total sitting at 42.5. So Green Bay's looking like the public side here. This number's been bet down from 6.5 down to 6. Looks like everyone's taking the Packers. I'm curious to see if this line keeps dropping, to be honest. Packers offensively going to be without Aaron Jones, which is a definite hit to that run game. Tight end Luke Musgrave also still on the IR. Green Bay's defense is actually in good shape injury-wise. There's something I haven't said much this year. Darnell Savage looking like he's finally back. He's missed 6 games now, I believe. Rudy Ford is back. Jair Alexander hasn't missed a practice this week. Same goes for Devondre Campbell. This is the best injury report for the Packers defense in about 2 months. On the Kansas City side, we have 0 injuries on the Chiefs offense, not even a questionable. KC is good to go offensively. And the same goes for Kansas City's defense as well, with the exception of linebacker Nick Bolton. He hasn't played since late October. He's been out for a little bit now. So the Chiefs in great shape injury-wise. So let's match these two teams up on the field. Patrick Mahomes in the Chiefs passing game, really tough to get a read on this unit. Just look at Mahomes' passer rating over the last 5 games. 129.5 against the Chargers, 31 points the Chiefs scored in that game. Against Denver, 59.1 and 9 points. Then Miami, 105.6 and 21 points, but they did nothing in the second half. It was the tale of two halves there. Philly, 71.6 passer rating, just 17 points. Raiders, 122.8 and 31 points. It's so up and down. It's so streaky. Plus, you add on the drop passes. Really tough to get a feel for this Chiefs offense right now. Now, the good news for Patrick Mahomes is he's playing a Packers defense that runs a ton of zone coverage. Packers run zone on 68.5% of their defensive snaps this year. That's the 4th most in the NFL. The reason that's good news, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce destroy zone coverage. Against man, Patrick Mahomes has actually been struggling this year. 20th in passer rating, 21st in net yards per attempt. Against zone, 5th and 6th. So what do I always say when the Chiefs are playing a zone-heavy defense? Travis Kelce overs are probably worth a look. Same goes for CeeDee Lamb against man-heavy defenses and Stephon Diggs against man-heavy defenses as well. When it comes to the Packers defense against the pass, it really just comes down to the pass rush. It's that simple. The Packers have generated pressure at 32% rate or higher 3 times this season. They're a perfect 3-0 in those games. In the other 8 games, they're just 2-6. So if the Packers pass rush is working, they're probably going to win. If the Packers pass rush isn't working, they're probably going to lose. Now they play Patrick Mahomes, who according to PFF is 2nd in QB pressures. So basically that means pressures caused by the quarterback, not the offensive line. Basically a quarterback holding on to the ball too long. And when pressured this season, Patrick Mahomes has thrown 6 picks with a 60.8 passer rating. That's 34th and 27th. So Patrick Mahomes has not been good under pressure this year. And that Green Bay pass rush is coming into this game with some momentum. I mean, entering last game, the Lions had one of the best pass protections in the NFL. Green Bay was all over Jared Goff on Thanksgiving. So I think Green Bay's going to get after Mahomes here. As far as running the ball, it's safe to say that the Chiefs have been disappointing this year. After starting off so hot, in weeks 1 through 4, they were averaging 4.69 yards per carry, 137 rush yards per game. Pacheco was looking like he was going to have a monster season. They cooled off dramatically. In weeks 5 through 12, just 89 rush yards per game and 3.85 yards per carry. They do have an outlier in there. They were able to run the ball on Philly, 168 yards on 5.6 yards per carry against the Eagles. But if you take that game out, their last 6 games, they're averaging just 3.44 yards per carry and 75 rushing yards per game. So the run game has not been there for the Chiefs. On the season, Kansas City has fallen to 17th in rushing DVOA, 17th in yards per carry, and 20th in adjusted line yards. Now, the good news is this Packers run defense isn't very good. They've got run on basically in 3 straight games, including Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler rushed for 165 yards on 5.45 yards per carry. Austin Eckler's having a terrible season. But one thing Green Bay can hang their hat on, they do a much better job against the run at home in Lambeau. On the season, on the road, they're allowing 4.7 yards per carry, which is tied for 28th in the NFL. At home in Lambeau, just 3.9 yards per carry, tied for 7th in the NFL. Situational stats on this side of the ball, Kansas City's offense definitely has the edge on 3rd down. They're 4th, Packers defense 22nd. Slight edge to the Packers defense in the red zone, not much. On the other side of the ball, we know Kansas City's defense is elite against the pass. It has been all year. They're 3rd in pass defense DVOA, 10th in opponent passer rating, 3rd in yards per pass attempt allowed. Now, I will say the Chiefs pass rush isn't quite the same this year as it has been in years past. They're 3rd in adjusted sack rate, so they are getting the quarterback to the ground, but just 19th in pressure rate. And if you're wondering how that is, it's Spagnuolo's blitz packages. He sends a ton of blitz and they have a high success rate. So whenever they get pressure, they get there and get the quarterback down. They just don't generate pressure at a high rate. That blitz percentage is key here because Jordan Love surprisingly has been excellent against the blitz this season. When blitzed on the year, Jordan Love is 9th in passer grade, 13th in passing touchdowns, 1st in interceptions, and 14th in passer rating. And we're talking about Jordan Love that's kind of on a heater right now. In his last 4 games, he's got a 115 passer rating, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks, 276 yards per game, and over 8 yards per pass attempt. Compared to his numbers from the previous 5 games, 66 passer rating and just 6 yards per attempt. And the matchup gets even better for Jordan Love because the Chiefs run a ton of man coverage. Chiefs are 4th in the NFL in man coverage frequency. Jordan Love against zone coverage, 26th in passer rating, 21st in net yards per attempt. Against man, 8th and 8th. And it gets even better for Jordan Love. I have another positive angle for Jordan Love here. Kansas City's pass defense, much better at home. On the season, at home in Arrowhead, 16th in opponent passer rating, 2nd in sack rate, 4th in interceptions. On the road, 5th in opponent passer rating, 12th in sack rate, and 32nd with 0 interceptions. So a ton of positive angles for Jordan Love here. All signs point to Jordan Love having a good game throwing the ball. What about the run game for the Packers? Are they going to be able to run the ball? Well, good news for Green Bay is Kansas City's been terrible trying to defend the run. On the season, they're 27th in DVOA, 25th in adjusted line yards, 28th in yards per carry. But I still don't know if that necessarily means we can count on the Packers to run the ball here, because like I said earlier, Aaron Jones is out, and on the season, the Packers are just 25th in DVOA, 19th in yards per carry, 23rd in adjusted line yards themselves. One thing we do have to say for the Packers run game, though, they've been much better as of late. They started off the season so slow trying to run the ball, and Aaron Jones was injured in the beginning of the season. Through the first 4 weeks, they're averaging just 3.27 yards per carry as a team. In the 7 weeks since then, 4.56 yards per carry. So the Packers run game, not elite, but much better the second chunk of this season in comparison to the first few games. Situational stats on this side of the ball, edge goes to the Packers, both on third downs and in the red zone. Packers defense have been pretty good situationally. Packers offense, I'm sorry. As far as what I'm betting in this game, well, I already took Green Bay at +6. If you're in the Discord, you already know that. I don't love how everyone else seems to be coming in on Green Bay, though. And they still got them as 6-point dogs at home. I would like to see that line start dropping. I don't love the look of that, but I'm sticking to my guns. I'm sticking to Green Bay +6. As far as the total goes, I actually think this is an over game, but I still don't feel comfortable betting primetime over, so I'm not going to do it. I'm just sticking to Green Bay +6. Got an underdog pick 'em here. It's a 5 pick, so it pays out 20 times if it hits. CJ Stroud, lower pass yards. Zach Moss, lower rush yards. Jaylen Warren, higher rush yards. Brock Purdy, higher pass yards. Matt Stafford, higher pass yards. Like I said, it pays out 20 times if it hits. If you don't have an Underdog fantasy account, it's available to any state highlighted in this map. So if you're in one of these states highlighted in yellow, head over to the website or download the app, Underdog Fantasy. And when you make your account, make sure you use the promo code BET. BET. That'll get you a $100 deposit bonus. So if you deposit $100, they will give you a free $100 to play with. NFL Week 13. Let's keep the positivity rolling. We had an excellent Week 12. I'll post the VIP stuff late Saturday night. So head over to KyleKirms.com if you want to check that out or join the Discord. All the information's on there. Let's have a great weekend. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you in the Discord.